Gmodism. You're watching Gmodism and we're back into From the Depth. This time we will be continuing to building on LCG Canyon's ship. And as you probably know by now, we're building this enormous ship to Admiral LCG Canyon because he is indeed our admiral in the army of Gmodism. That's Patreon. And apparently, so LCG Canyon decided to be a YouTube member as well. So now, I guess this is the highest rank you can get. This is Stellar Admiral LCG Canyon's huge build, so we'll have to make this something extremely special indeed. In any case, thanks a lot for supporting me so much, and I also want to thank Captain Scooberox12345, Commander Ejin, Lieutenant Asteria, and Cadet Shark 93 and Martin McBacon. So anyways, I have been starting to drawing up some hand-drawn stuff for Lieutenant Asteria and Captain Scooberox, but I have been continuing to build on this thing. So this is as it were last time, and I'm going to show you what I've done for the ship so far. So let me spawn that in. I have been designing merch like a madman the latest week, so I'm kind of behind a little bit in all my videos, but I easily get stuck in a project I'm working on, so I'll just do a lot of it. In any case, me and Admiral LCG Canyon, we had a little discussion about the ship, and he had a good suggestion on that the landing pads are so big, they almost look flimsy, they could need some kind of skis. So, what I've done is I've designed skis onto it, so we can actually just take this thing and get it up in the air, and you can see a little bit. So now, to get better support, it has skis to each side like that, and these skis are they're actually very floaty. They have floaty stuff in them. They also have one hole for this is interesting. Okay, so okay, I totally didn't. Okay, that's good. I checked that. I completely missed. I failed to add a one of these at this side. This is a sonar, of course. So when I added a sonar, I forgot the symmetry plane. Yeah. Anyways, now we have a sonar here, and it of course needs to go out in a hole here. Otherwise, it won't see anything. And apparently, it can see through a hole that's that narrow. So that's good, I guess. In any case, the skis, they have not only that, they do have 3-meter propellers hidden inside of here, so they have roll and pitch control. So here we have some rollers, and they are of course not in an air bubble because then they wouldn't work. And that's what it's doing. And we are also having some EMP absorption points inside of here, in case some EMP torpedoes come from the side. And you know, these things, they can be blown up, it doesn't matter, they're just, they're like an extra layer of armor. So this is also super good for broadsiding action, which this ship definitely will do. This is not a point-at ship, this is a circling ship. Right, so that is of course the big thing I done. I smoothed out these a little bit, but other than that, I was thinking, okay, when we're building a ship, we need to think about not only making details and railings like this, we need to think about firepower. And I had a little bit of a discussion with the very intelligent and smart and awesome people in our Discord a little bit about, well, what I should do, some general recommendations for big railguns, and my kind of thought about building this was that I want a capital ship class main turret with a big C, and it's gonna be a railgun, and it's going to be 500 millimeters. And then I talked a little bit, and so it's basically better to have a little smaller, so we're going 400 millimeters, because if we're having 500 millimeters, they're gonna be so we won't be able to to make that shell very fast. It's not practical. with a 400mm shell, we can gain more penetration. And that's also, if you know Bungalow Bill, he's a builder, he's very, very skilled, and he made a ship that's called BBS 5th Season, and it's a very good ship. And it has 400mm guns, and they just penetrate so good. It's a very good setup. So then I thought, okay, that ship is really good. It also uses 400. Maybe I don't need 500. It's probably good with 400. So I decided to go 400. I selected 3-meter autoloaders. So now we're just going to spawn in the turret template. Yeah, so here we are at the turret template instead, where we're gonna build it. So my thought is basically I want to make a mad turret. It's gonna be extremely strong. I don't care about the costs. It's going to be a very strong, very resilient railgun. So we set on, we're gonna make pure railguns, not mixed. So we won't be needing coolers. And since we're doing pure railgun, I decided to go with penetrative shots, because I thought like this main gun turret should be able to basically shoot through anything as fast as possible. So I wanted it to be a little bit insane, but this strategy where we're only firing like metal slugs let us make a build where we don't need to have ejectors or diffusers, and since we don't have gunpowder, we don't need it. So we're only firing metal slugs. And then we get the option, we have hollow points and we have penetrators. So this is my turret well, it's very sturdy, very strong, capital ship's turret plate. I set this up here a little bit to see how big it was, so I knew how high I could build this. This is of course a T17 base. So this is the first step. With my little template design here, I kind of selected how high up I want the firing pieces to be over the upper edge of the turret. And since the ship will always be sticking up a little bit, we want it to be a little bit over. So I decided that since we have borders on the ship, it's gonna stick up a little bit like this. On this design, I of course have insulated weapon controllers, and I'm having an extra weapon controller in case an unlucky frag takes out one of them, we'll still have it there. It's gonna be protected by heavy armor, so we are having this thing here. We're having some surge protectors in the base to suck up that EMP damage and not bother the computers, since they're also insulated. And we basically set up an approximate barrel length that we will be going for. Next out, I basically tried to fill up the system, and as I said, I've already decided to go with full metal slugs and 3-meter autoloaders. So each little autoloader will basically be containing like actual metal rods. And right now we have a 400mm system, and we have balanced it up, so the charging time is 1 second, 1.69, 1.9. I haven't balanced this out really yet, and I just filled it out here, and of course it's expensive, this system. And I have 4 barrels, I wanted 4 barrels, and I paired them up together, 2 and 2 like this, so that an unlucky shot can take out the firing piece or the barrel and the system still works. And I have also division between them 2 systems, so one side can blow up without affecting the other side. And that's kind of the thought about this. Like, this turret should be operational during and under extremely heavy damage. And then we also have like these parts here, we have the APS parts. And you can see I have a lot more gauge increasers than I actually need. And that's only because a 6-way connector has armor of 5. And a gauge increaser has... oh. Wait, okay, I thought the gauge increaser had better armor. Maybe I just don't remember that correctly. Well, there is another thought of having a lot of gauge increasers also. and that is they have the same health as six-way connectors, but they are also double the expensive, but they're so cheap compared to the other parts. So I mean, one railgun charger costs 400, and you can see I had kind of a lot of them. But the reason I want to have a lot of gauge increasers, and that is because I want this cannon to be able to take heavy damage, like serious damage. And I still want it to be able to fire at 400 millimeters, so it doesn't clear the clips. Yeah, so it only clears the clips and changes the gauge if it really has to. In any case, that's kind of the setup there. I've loaded them, I set up some shells here, and I decided to go with a heavy head. This has some sabots, so it's 36 armor piercing value. We have 43,000 kinetic damage, and this is basically just a penetrator, and it goes as 1.6 thousand. And I really wanted to make it go to 2,000, but it seems that it's not possible with the setup. And the other one is a hollow point, and this one has a super cav, and this one has a visible tracer. So super cavs are good because we're firing at a low angle and a lot of them will get shot through the waves. And if we will be able to shoot through the waves like it's nothing, that's pretty good. So here kind of it's some pretty serious shells, as you probably understand. Okay. Next part, what's actually armor this thing up. And I did realize that I've misread some stuff. Yeah. I did realize that I forgot about the extreme recoil, like the serious crazy recoil we get when we are dealing with railguns. Like, even though we don't have gunpowder, the recoil that railgun has is serious. You'll need a lot of recoil absorbers to not be inaccurate. And if you're having a railgun, you want to be anything but not inaccurate. Like, not inaccurate. Okay, so let's see here. No, okay. Cut below then. And as you can see here, we're just gonna move the cutter a little bit. You can see here that on the lower base, right here, I've actually removed one portion of the autoloaders because I couldn't fit enough recoil absorbers and chargers in the turret, and it would be too many to have on top of the turret. We can only have some systems on top of the turret. So I had to make a trade-off and remove one section of autoloaders in order to fit those parts inside of here. So it's some kind of funny Tetris going on here. It's all over the place. And of course I wanted to encase the beginning of the barrels as well as the firing piece and the magnets and stuff like that in a serious amount of heavy armor, because we cannot afford losing them. Yeah, and let's see here. We have still super cav. We still have the same shells here, and that's what we're going to go into a minute. But now it's a balanced system, and because we did this, the fire rate is lower. It's you can see it's 2.5 seconds approximately between each shot, and it does deal a lot of damage. Like, the thump damage is pretty funny. Let us just do like that. Let me show you the thump damage of this thing. It's pretty funny. Okay. Oh, there's so much smoke. You can see the wooden blocks just popping down there. And the thing is that thump damage, it's like great for very weak targets, like wood and stuff like that. So it's shedding blocks pretty fast. But we can see we still have somewhat of an inaccuracy problem. So that's something that I had to fix in the next step. But you can see it's a serious turret. It's not joking about. And it doesn't carry a payload, yes. but it's also not very vulnerable, and you can't protect yourself with era. So this type of kinetic setup is actually very good to counter players that have been playing a while, because there is not a good way to defend against this. The only thing we can do against kinetic shells, that's basically block spam, so we're causing aim point spoofing, and that's like not legal usually. And we can also just build massive and have kind of an inherited aim point spoofing, and some people like wood, like building entirely out of wood, and some people think that's kind of cheating too. Alright, so here we are at the next step. The turret has been taking shape, and like what you see here is nothing from what has happened to this turret last you saw it. I've basically rebuilt a lot of the turret internally to order to move around, stuff around, and make everything work, everything well protected, and everything decent like that. And I also had to fine-tune, move around, and do some of that stuff in order to make this thing work a little bit better. So, if we're just bringing back our HUD here, we can see that we're still at 1.5 shots, but here we see we fixed the recoil, and we fixed the, yeah, it's the same there. But I started to shape it out, and yeah, right. This is not all. This is a lot of cosmetic and armor. So I saw that during my like tests fights versus the BBS Fest season, I saw that Bungalow build used a lot of like rods inside the armor of the turret, and I saw how effective that was. So that's something I'm lending to the design of this thing. The rods, like, it kind of hit me that if you look at this rod here, like, whatever angle you shoot at this, you will almost always hit it in an angle. So if a fragment hits one of these, they'll be hitting the fragment in an angle. So I think actually that one rod, even though it has 1.3k health, and the big beam has 1.6k. I think the effective angle of the rod basically make it so that they take less damage, they're more resistant against frag. And they also cause some natural air pockets inside of there, so it's also doing that. Pretty dope. And of course, I added an extra layer of heavy armor on top of that to just protect some of the recoil absorbers and stuff like that. It's not a big deal if we lose them, but we don't want to lose them unnecessarily. Yeah, so armoring the turret, and we're armoring this thing heavy because we do not want to lose them. We're also gonna have several of them. And here we are just seeing the armor taking shape. You can see like that. I filled up a lot of blocks with stone in order to get some health point and some shells not melting through there. And I really like these. And I used AA mantlets, so this big turret can actually shoot almost straight upward. So it's really versatile. And I really wanted to make it look like it also can shoot in these angles, because I want my stuff to kind of look like they work as they should. Even though it's like fantasy and we kind of make stuff up and like that, I want it to make sense in its own world, if that makes any sense. And now we're really starting to get finished with this turret here. You can see that I've painted it. We use, we'll just add fleet colors here, because then it's, I don't know if LCG Canyon wants to change the colors later, so it's best to use fleet colors if you don't want to use the AoG fleet colors. But I've painted it up there, so it at least looks good, since, you know, we're building the entire ship in fleet colors, because that makes sense. And then we are having like filling up the armor, coloring it up, covering it up like that. And inside here, they are still as they are. Yes. So I also added some railgun parts here onto the barrels, just to make it look like a railgun. So even though it's just cosmetic, or my god, this game is cosmetic. You can see it looks so cool with the parts here. It's a so simple decoration and so nice. And if you want to know how to do that, check my instant decorations tutorial. Yeah, and now we get to the point where the turret looks the same, but I've done a rework again about the internals a little bit here. Yep. Now they shoot every 2 seconds. Yes, they shoot now every 2 seconds. I switched around loads of stuff inside of here to make it work, fine-tuned it. We have recoil absorbers, chargers here and there, just to make everything exactly fine-tuned. So why did we upper the fire rate? Well, because we had to shorten the shell. So the shell was a little bit too long, and that made it so that we couldn't get up to speeds. Like, one thing I really wanted was the shells to be fast, and I tested out the previous design against the Megalodon, and its slam systems basically shut it down. Actually, let me show you. Right, so here we have the Megalodon, and if we're just going to wait for our shells to come in here, we probably need to run this a little bit slower. And the shells are going at 1.6 thousand meters per second, 1,600 meters per second. So they're not like slow shells, but the Meg slam system is pretty like insane. Now you can see another volley is coming here. One is hollow point and one is heavy heads as before. And it doesn't zap them all the time, but it zaps them too often. Like, it's not okay. So I kind of realized that no, we'll have to make them faster. These shells are they're just too slow. Like, we're not dealing damage. It's like, this is unacceptable. We'll have to fix this. You saw that? Let me actually... Saw that? It zapped them. Not okay. So that is why, on this iteration, we've basically fixed that. Yay. So we made the shells shorter, it shoots faster, and why does it shoot faster? Well, because shorter shells reload faster. And the shells are mainly shorter just because I have a couple of railgun casings here. And the slugs themselves can actually take more rail payload than these. But the railgun casing basically adds empty space, kinda. Except at least for the solids. For the chemical rounds it can be a little bit different. But for the solids they basically add empty space. And that makes it so that the shell can be like reloading faster and shooting faster. So it's like an imaginary case. I don't know. It works. It just works. So now I made them go almost 2,000 meters per second. And that's pretty nice. And that actually goes through the Megalodon slam system. One of this is armor piercing and the other one is a sabot. And the sabot has like almost 90 armor piercing class, and that's of course too much, but we can't really make it much lower with the current like stuff. So like this is 72, like stacked heavy armor is 72, so it deals full damage against stacked heavy armor. So I guess that's good, but I'm not decided yet if I really should have one of these shells with a sabot head. The other one has an armor piercing. Is it something about deflection too? Isn't the sabot kind of increasing its chance of... Let's see, reduces effective impact angle. I guess maybe armor piercing is better. Please educate me that in the comment field a little bit. But this does 21,000 damage, so it's a lot less. This one deals 25, but they deal full damage against like heavy armor. I guess this does full damage against normal heavy armor, doesn't it? Almost full damage against normal heavy armor, because that's 60. Yeah. So this is a pretty efficient setup. Like, this actually comes through. This actually shoots through the Meg slams. And here we have, ladies and gentlemen, the completed turret. And I just love spacing the barrels out like that when we have a finished turret. I think it looks so cool. Maybe it's only me. But yeah, and I've added some cool details on this thing. You can see I've decorated it. It looks kind of... it looks a weird combination of like, I don't know, like diesel punk and spaceship. So I think that's the look we are going for, so that's cool. It has a little laser targeter and a little camera hidden inside the turret here. And I checked them, they actually, even though this is kind of 360 around, when we face it like this, I checked it, when they face the enemy, it's actually tracking. So it gives us tracking on the turret as well, so that's super good. And I've done some fixes here. So we have super cav base on both, so we can shoot through water, since that's what we're going to do a lot of the time. We fixed the recoil values. All of these systems are effectively the same. This shoots roughly every 2 seconds. It will fire a slug. We had to go into the APS and change the max fire rate to 28 per minute, because I allowed it to fire when partly charged. In case our engine and battery is damaged, we still want to make it throughout slug. If we uncheck this, it will just not shoot at all, and we'll be losing potential damage just because our batteries are like not up to capacity or something. And that's not okay. We also use 5% of the energy for energy buff. And as I've been like, Adnicarus told me before that this is a really good idea to have some accuracy buff, but over 10% or 15% or something is like wasted. You want to make damage with all of it. But since we have this stat, it can be cool to boost the accuracy a little bit too. And that's also why we didn't use base bleeders, because then we could get the shells to shoot at over 2000 meters per second. But turns out they get through the alarm system of the Meg without any problem. So I decided that is fantastic indeed. Let's spawn a Meg. And there we are. We have spawned a Meg, and now I should manually shoot this thing a little bit so you can kind of see what type of damage we're dealing. And we can see that we're shooting at it. It is able to shoot the shells that bounce, of course, but then they didn't do any damage at all. But the shells that actually are going right through to the Meg, it's not able to shoot them before they hit them. Like, it's too fast. Now it seems that the sabots has a tendency to bounce, and we also have a tendency to bounce on the shields. Yeah, we'll need disruptors on the other auxiliaries, but you can see we have some important parts here. We have some confetti just shooting at it a little bit, and if we like shoot at this turret here, you can see that like one barrel away, just one little volley there. And if we can just snipe things like this, and we can just deal loads of damage. We shoot at the base here. You can see. And since like these shells are pretty insane, they tend to go through the ship if we do not shoot at the meaty part. And since we have, what are we calling them? Since we are having, excuse me. Okay, thank you. Since we are having... now I kind of lost what I was going to say, but that's probably fine. We can let the AI do the action here. Anyways, since we're having these super cavs, we can shoot through water, we can hit it below the deck and above the deck, and it doesn't matter. And we can see, here we have like APS parts, it basically just shoots like right through it. We just have a really good, like all the armor, for all the armor it has, it's not able to protect itself from these type of very fast firing slugs. They can bounce, that's the only thing they can do, but you won't be able to shoot them down and you won't be able to armor against them. So I'm starting to get really happy with kinetic setups like this, because we can just deal so insane amounts of damage. Like, if we just aim for the propellers down here, I'm sure we can take some of them out in just a few shots. There we have, okay. And as we're pretty accurate, you can see, boom, just a few volleys and the Meg doesn't move anymore. But and when we're shooting through the sides, we can see here, we're getting real, like, we're just melting through here. They are just having, it's heavy armor, it's everything. It doesn't matter. We're gonna turn on, let's see here. Let's see here, damage debugging, projectile. Okay, now we have projectiles. So, we can kind of just line ourselves up here and see how it penetrates, kind of live. Do I accidentally control this now? I think I might. Oh yes, I do. Okay, I need to... like that. Okay, good. And there we go. So, just check it out here. It's kind of interesting testing. Yeah, we can see that these shells, they go... If they shoot at the meaty part, they don't go through the Meg, but they almost do. And when I tested this before, in one of the early volleys, I just saw laser parts sprinkled after it. Just a lucky shot, laser parts sprinkled, and its lamps didn't work very well anymore. And that just opens up for all of our other projectile types, so that's pretty cool. You can see they're just pop. Yeah. I'm actually surprised how much damage just pure kinetics does. Yeah, that one went through. Do you see that? Right through the Meg. And if we are being a little bit... like, if we're being a little bit like that, we can always, like, specifically target stuff. And a few shots will disable a turret if we're hitting them right. You saw that? Basically went through the turret. If we just... We're trying that one then. Yeah, there you saw. Boom, both barrels off. Alright, this turret is now disabled. Yeah. Of course, the results vary a little bit. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. But this is so much more efficient against this type of target than the hollow point shells were. The hollow points did not do like enough. Okay, let's just do that. Right, so we have the turret here. Fantastic. And that's basically that. This is our turret, and I think it's pretty good. Main gun turret. It's definitely the best railgun turret I built so far. Now, it just remains, we should of course save this thing. So, sub-objects mode. Alright, here we have it. Type J APS Railgun Perforator T17. We're gonna save it, and it costs 429,000 materials. So it is an expensive boy, yes, but it's also a very strong boy. So yeah, I'm hoping it's gonna be worth every single material in terms of performance. And here we can see... Oh no, now I accidentally placed the turret on the turret in air. Anyways, it's designed to fit there. Let's spawn the ship instead. And there we have it. We are on the ship. So I think it's time for the very ceremonial and nice time when we are indeed installing one of the first main guns onto this turret. One of the main guns onto this ship. So, here we go. We can see, yes, it just exactly reaches over the railing here. That's perfect. Awesome. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Let us ceremoniously left click. 1, 2, 3. Amazing. Amazing. Okay, we need a shower too. What do we have? Control. I'm just gonna have a temporary shower here. And a temporary fire control computer. Yay. And we can just... Oh yes. Oh yes. Boom. It says... Oh, well. Now we're accidentally firing some other things too. Anyways. Something... There we go. Oh, and we're having the big base, so we can move around this thing easily, even though it's so big. Awesome. I love how the railgun has recoil, but the barrels doesn't move when we fire. It doesn't look like it has recoil. But that looks really cool. Alright, well, hopefully that will be very nice. It seems to be a pretty good turret. I do really think it's a decent turret. And now when we know how high this turret is, I did try to make it decently like streamlined and decently flat, but still, of course, like I don't build super flat turrets. I don't know how to do it other than just the slab, but in my experience, the super flat turrets gets absolutely shredded by missiles and cramps that come from above. So I want to have them a little bit bulky, but also kind of flat so we can stack several of them. In any case, that should be that, and I do believe that we have successfully completed the next step of this ship. If you enjoyed this video, please do leave a like, and if you're not subscribed yet, do subscribe today. And next up, I think we shall be installing the turrets all over the place. Like, we're going to find and select and install the placement for all the main guns. I intend to have 3 more of these. And after that, we can start to outline the general shape of the hull, because we do like the general shape of the superstructure, I mean. Because we do need to know how big our main guns are before we can do that, and now we know. And then we're going to work on some auxiliary turrets like disruptors and stuff like that. In any case, hope you enjoyed, like the video, see you again, and if you also want to have some build for you in the future, because this will take some time of course, but then you can absolutely check out my Patreon if you want to support the channel and get some cool stuff in return. This is your host Gmodism, and I'm signing out.